Hi, I'm Jay, and today I'm going to show you how to blow out your in-ground sprinkler system. Let's go take a look. Now, everybody's house and everybody's plumbing is different. You will have to adapt what you see here to what you have. We're going to get into the tools and the things that you're going to need in a little while, but first, what I like to do before anything else is just give the system a very quick test, just to make sure everything is working, and make note of things that aren't. So on this system, we're going to open this up. I'll turn my dial back to auto, and I'm going to write down all of these settings here and move everything up to 2 minutes just to give everything a quick test. And then I'm going to hit manual. It says all, and press enter. My water meter should start. And there we go. So I have some heads in the shrubs here in the back. I can definitely hear them spraying. I have a drip emitter over here that is indeed spraying as well. I don't know if you can see. And a couple more heads. They look to be good. And these around the bend here as well. And my second zone is just fired up, so that's spraying nicely. And a head here, and a head here. And my third zone has come up. We have a head here, over there. The one by the steps there might be a little hard to see. Just have some air in it there. And my fourth zone, there's one head over here, and one head over here. Fifth zone has come up here. 1, 2, 3, so that's all working good. And we have a head here in the back, another one by the fence, and one over here. And we have our final zone, 1, 2, 3 by the fence, and the fourth one is here. The apparently next door had some gardeners that chopped some of this down and left this for me, so that was kind. But there's the last head. So everything is working. So now we'll go ahead and get everything blown out. So obviously you're going to need an air compressor. Any of these three little things here are not going to do. You have to get something that's sized properly to your property, and that's going to depend on how many zones you have and how long the runs on each zone are. For this house, I have 7 zones, and I have a much bigger compressor, which is buried in here. It's a 15-gallon, and there's an auxiliary 7-gallon tank, so that gives me 22 gallons of air, and that's more than plenty for what I need. If you have a much, much bigger house, you're going to need a much, much bigger compressor. If you have a smaller house, I've seen people get away with 6-gallon compressors. It's all up to you. Really all it comes down to is how long you want to wait. Because you're going to put an entire tank of air through, and then you have to wait for it to fill up again. So, the smaller your compressor, the longer you're going to have to wait for it to keep refilling, keep refilling, keep refilling. You're going to need an air hose long enough to reach from where your compressor is. I have a couple of air hoses there, a couple more over here. And you're going to need a tool to admit air into your system. Here's an air fitting. This screws onto the faucet, the outdoor hose spigot, where the sprinkler system is. So this will do the trick. I have a video that I'll link in the description showing how to make such a tool. And not entirely necessary, but certainly nice to have, would be a full port ball valve, as you see right here, so you can turn the air on and off. And this is an inline regulator. I don't regulate the pressure. I use the full pressure out of the compressor, and I have not had a problem doing this for 10 years that way. Your mileage, of course, will vary. However, I don't use this for its regulation function, just to see how much air is in the tank and the pressure that I have available. So now that we have all of the tools we need, we're ready to start blowing this out. So the first thing we have to do is isolate the sprinkler system from the rest of the water supply. And in my house, it's this valve right here. So I can go and turn that, and shut the water off. Now we'll go back outside. And now that we're here, you can see there are two hose spigots. This was original to the house and just goes to the garden hose, but this is the pipe for the sprinkler system. So it comes out here, goes down into the ground, into the manifold boxes here, and this is where we're going to admit air from. So we're going to go ahead and open this valve up all the way, and then we have to go back down to the basement. Now it's popped open and we can see some water dribbling out, which is completely normal. Now back inside the house, just after your water shut off, there should be some way to let water out. In this case, I have a little petcock. That's that little brass colored thing right there. You'll see it has a hole in it. When I unscrew that, the water will come out from this pipe that goes up and outside, and we'll drain that down. So what we're going to do is put a bucket or catch container of some kind up there, open that up, let it drain out fully, and then close it and make sure it's closed good, because otherwise you're going to be blasting air and maybe water down here, and that you don't want. Okay, still leaving this valve open, we're going to take our air admittance tool and connect that right over here, just tight like you would a regular hose, and over here is the other end to connect to our air line. Now we need a way to turn on the particular zones of the sprinkler. Now there's a couple ways you can do that. You can do it using your timer, or you can do it manually. To do it manually, you'd have to go into those green covers I showed you on the ground before, the manifolds, and actually go and twist the solenoid on top of the valve. I'm not a big fan of doing that because they have a tendency to possibly leak again in the spring. So I like to do it electrically. So you'll need to find a way to turn your system on to a manual run of a particular zone. You can time it for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever it is, if that's what your timer allows you to do. Mine, fortunately, is an older style, and I can just bring it right up to manual on. And now zone 1 will show up right there, and that's on, ready to go for me to admit air. Okay, zone 1 is on, all of our valves are on. This is the only thing stopping the air. We'll turn that on, and now we're going to get water, and then we're going to hear air. And as that goes down the line, now we're getting air over there. I'm hearing air further down the line. It doesn't necessarily go in order, but I'm sure that's going to go ahead and have some air soon. That could also be a low point right there. But this is why it's important to watch. There we go. I don't know if you can see it. It's getting air now. You see this fine mist here? That means you're doing good getting all the water out. We still have some more over here. Now that one just gurgled. That means that the head popped down, and we're going to see that happen here or to the one in the corner there in a moment. That one popped down, and that's going to in a moment also. That means we're running low on air, so I'm going to go shut that valve off and let the tank refill. So while I'm waiting for my tank to refill, which I can watch on this gauge right here, I want to talk about the importance of getting out as much water as you can. Here's a hose. Let's say this is one of the pipes underground. There could be a low point like this, and that means the water is going to hang in that part. The whole idea of blowing this out is to get as much water out as you can. For how thick this is, maybe what, 3/8 of an inch, this hose, if it's filled with water, just like the pipe in the ground, and that freezes, it expands, and that can cause the pipe to burst. So by getting the water out, even if you have just a little trickle of water at the bottom of it, like a little river just running in there. You may have seen in like sewer or storm drains or something where there's just that little bit of water that passes through. If that freezes, it's not going to take up the entire pipe and cause any problem. So you just want to blow it out and get out as much water as possible. When you feel comfortable that you've gotten enough out, it's good. Okay, my tank is refilled, so I'm ready to blast this same zone 1 more time. I'm hearing pretty much air, which is exactly what I want. That's just doing air. In here, this one, well, it's got some little trickles here or there, but it's not really going to be that big of a deal. We'll let this get an entire tank of air through. For me, I like to hit each zone twice, and then we move on to the next one. All right, we've done our first zone, so now I'm going to go and send that over to manual off. And then we're going to turn on zone 2. Now remember, I've written down what all of the settings here were, so at the end I'm going to reset it to that so it'll just be fresh and ready to go for next year. Zone 2 is on, waiting for my air compressor to refill, and then we'll blast that. Tank is recharged, ready for zone 2. First blast. Turn that on. 1, 2, 3, and then we'll get air. So I'm going to show you again. Now that has air, and that one has air too. The mist we don't want. We want to get as much of this out as we can. So we just leave it. Let it send air through. Same thing over here. Let it send the air through. Get out as much of the water as it can. And eventually you're going to run out of air, and it's going to pop back down. As you see, it still has just enough to just barely keep it afloat. This one will go down. The other one did already, and I'll have to refill the tank now. Shut that off and let my tank refill. Okay, tank's refilled. Zone 2, second blast. Turn that on. And again, we have just little wisps of water coming out. We just want those to get out as much as we can from all the heads. If you feel that 2 tanks full to goes at it doesn't quite do the trick and you want to go for a third, feel free to do that. Whatever you think is going to work best for you. Even if you have just that, we know we've gotten 95% of the water out, so that all looks good right there. Okay, we're out of air, so we'll shut that off, and then we have to go turn off zone 2, turn on zone 3, or if you have a helper, it makes it a lot easier. Zone 3. So we have a head here, a head here, and a head there. That's got some air. It's good in a moment. There we are. And that one's got some air also. So we'll let these blow themselves out. And in a moment that's going to fall down due to lack of air. Close the valve and hit it for a second blast. Zone 3, second blast. This is why it's important to hit it 2, maybe 3 times depending. Everything seems to be doing pretty well. So once this tank goes through, we'll go on to zone 4. Zone 4, first blast. Got air there. All of this mist come out. Zone 4, second blast. The singing pipes means that the sprinkler gods are smiling upon you. Don't worry if you hear that sound, it's nothing to be concerned with. And we have just a little bit more coming out here, so we'll just let that blow out and we're done with this one. Zone 5, first blast. We have 1, 2, and 1 out at the curb. The middle one got it first. No way to tell. It just is. Now that one got it. And I'm sure down at the end has it now also. So we'll let all of this mist blow out. Clear that out and go for a second run. Zone 5, second blast. That looks great there. Sometimes you'll get there where they don't pop back up. There's just water on top of it, really. This just has a couple little wisps of water still coming out. So we'll just let this tank finish out, and that'll be good for Zone 5. Zone 6, first blast. And that's doing very well. Blasting out. We got one there. And one over here. Let all of that blast out. And then we'll hit it for a second go. 6-second blast. This looks very good. Just a couple little drops. This one also looks great. And the last one on this zone. Perfect. Shut that one down and do Zone 7. Zone 7, first blast. And we have all sorts of air coming through here. Definitely there. That one got some air. One by the fence has some air. And the one over here looks probably good too. Yes, that one's perfect. That's probably first on that line. But we still have some at this head here. We'll let this air go through and then hit it for a second time. Zone 7, second blast. Well, the way the sun is coming down, looks like this is the only one that has just a little bit. And it's just a little drippy drops at the end here. So it looks like we got this zone pretty well blown out as well. But we're not done just yet. It's a scientific fact that 37.87521% of garden hose failures occur over the winter. While you have the air out, it would be an excellent idea to blow out your garden hose, especially if you know you're not going to need it or use it over the winter when it's probably going to freeze anyway. So we're all done with the sprinkler portion here. So I can turn this valve off. And because of the inline valve that I'm using, I'm not admitting any air through this hose now, so none of this is under pressure. And if I can just get it with my bare hands to come loose. Ah, there we are. We're all done with the sprinkler portion. I also have this valve here which I'll shut also. Now I'm going to disconnect this here because this goes to the garden hose. So now you're going to say, well, those don't go together, so how do I get my air hose hooked up to my garden hose? Well, there's a very easy solution. You're just going to go ahead and go to the other end of the hose and screw it on there. That'll work fine. But I'm going to complicate issues here. I bought an adapter that is male to male. Let me take it out of the package. So now we can convert this here from female to male, and then screw that end on. And the reason why I got this adapter and I'm doing it this way will become apparent in just a moment. So now I'm in the backyard, and I've taken the hose from the front and thrown it over the fence. I want to now connect that up to that hose, but now we have the opposite problem, male to male. Well, you probably already own something like that. It's just a plain old washing machine fill hose. Why am I doing it this way? This is an automatic hose reel, and if I rolled this hose out to the front, what would happen is I wouldn't be able to roll it back up because it needs water for it to work, and being that we're blowing all the water out, that won't work. So I have to do it this way. Now, could I connect this at the other end of the hose where it screws on the faucet? Yes, I could, but I'm not connecting it there because there's yet another hose that connects to that. This hose is connected to the other hose on the hose reel and ends over here. So I have the front hose connected to the back hose, connected to the pool hose, all in a line. And I had to use all kinds of adapters to do that. You don't need to do that, but there's a reason I'm showing you the adapter, which we're going to get to right after we blow out the garden hoses. Okay, using one washing machine fill hose, I've connected this black hose from the front into the spray nozzle because that has the threads where you can screw something on. The spray nozzle is held open. That goes through this whole hose reel back into where the valve is. There's a Y in there, and another hose runs out all the way around down to the pool. I recommend you have two people, or anchor this, put a brick on it, something, because this is going to flail wildly like a fire hose would once all of that pressure comes through here. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn on the air supply, or rather have my assistant do that, and we'll blow this out. So I'm going to let this continue on and blow out whatever it can. Shut off the air supply, let the tank recharge, and hit this one more time. And we're going to send one more tank through here. The garden hose is not as imperative to get everything out, just the idea behind it, so nothing really freezes and breaks your expensive garden hose, which you'll then have to replace the following year. So let this blow out, and then I'll show you something you may not have thought of. Do you own a pressure washer or a power washer? It's a proven fact that 71.8932671% of pump failures occur due to water left in them over the winter. So now, using the adapter, we can blow it out. So here is our air admittance hose, and again, we have that age-old problem again. But there's an adapter. So we can screw that in to the fitting on the pressure washer. And now our air hose will screw on just like that. Now you want to squeeze your trigger. Safety third, I already have mine squeezed. I have never actually done this before, so I'm going to admit air very, very slowly by opening my valve here just a little bit. Always make sure that when you do this at home, you point this away from your camera person. So here we go, just a little bit at a time. Well, look at that. All of this right here was going to freeze over the winter. And potentially damage your pump. So we'll just let this blow out until there's no more water coming out, and then we'll finish up. So just to finish up, I'm going to go ahead and turn my dial all the way to off, and I'm going to reset these back to 25 where they were, and then we'll close this out. So that's it. Just make sure that everything is turned off as I just showed you there, and leave your sprinkler timer plugged in year-round, because otherwise there are batteries in there that will quickly go dead and forget your program. A lot of them, when they stay plugged in, the batteries will last a lot longer, and that's a problem you won't have to worry about for some time to come. Now, if you run into any trouble through this whole thing, remember, you could just stop down and call your sprinkler guy, make an appointment like you probably have been doing, and have them finish the job. But otherwise, there's really nothing to it, especially if you have all of the tools you need. Really, the big one is just the air compressor, one that's big enough to handle your property. And like I said, you know, even if you have one already, you can give it a shot. If you're not happy with the performance of that, then you can either get a larger air compressor or call your sprinkler guy and have him blow it out. He's going to do the same thing that I just showed you, but it's going to be in a lot less time, and that's because he has that big trailer on the back of his truck that can handle blowing out all of your zones in one shot. He's going to open up every valve manually, which means they may leak in the spring, therefore another service call. He's going to open all of those up and blow all of them out in 5 minutes flat, and charge you $75, $85, $135, whatever it is. You could do it yourself if you got some time, let's say on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. That's all there is to it. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, please consider clicking the like and subscribe buttons. That lets me know that I did a good job making this video, and I can continue to provide them for you. Have a great day.